welcome. My name is Kelly, and this is Fanimated, an animation fan podcast where we get a chance to geek out about our favorite animated media. And today is a Whatcha Watchin', in which I will go through a few of the things I've been watching that I'm really excited about, and I hope you will give a shot as well. Every Whatcha Watchin' episode, we try to keep everything spoiler free, but today I'm doing something a little bit different because it's just me here, and I really loved the film Goodbye, Don Glees. However, I don't feel like I have quite enough to say about it to make it a full-length episode, so I am going to kind of delve into that movie a little more later in this episode, and I'll give it more of a full-length episode treatment rather than a Whatcha Watchin' treatment. So I will probably go into some spoilers there, but I will warn you when I do go into those spoilers. But first off, I have so many other things I wanted to talk about. So I wanted to make it a Whatcha Watchin', so I can talk about all of those things as well as Goodbye, Don Glees. So stick around for the Goodbye, Don Glees full review here. But I also just was really excited to talk about a few other things. And it has been a very long time since we have done a Whatcha Watchin'. So I have a lot of things kind of backlogged of things I wanted to talk about. So for now, spoiler free, and I'll let you know when spoilers are coming. But man, there have just been I don't watch quite as much as I used to in terms of just shows in general. Last year, I think I had watched almost 20 different anime, and this year maybe 5, but I'm keeping up with a lot of old ones. But basically, I feel like I have actually had more time recently, and just a lot of good stuff has come out. Okay, so with all that said, I don't even know where to start. So I will start with I'll start with Netflix. Okay, let's just talk about some Netflix things for a second, y'all. Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie. Listen, I am not a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan, okay? I have watched maybe a handful of episodes of the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show. But this movie, y'all, you do not need to have watched the series to love this movie. It is literally just a good action superhero movie, period. You don't have to go in knowing anything. Obviously, I'm sure people who are super fans and have watched the whole series will appreciate it even more. But there is so much to love just in the terms of animation. It is gorgeous. I was my jaw was on the floor. It's the cinematography is so good. The writing was really heartfelt. These characters are just so well written, and everyone, especially in a shorter movie, having to keep, give everyone a chance to shine. It truly does that. The stakes are high. The action is fantastic. I have nothing but good things to say about this movie, and I need more people to watch it. And then maybe you'll end up wanting to watch the whole series. I might not get to it, but it's definitely one that if I need just something fun to watch, I'll put that on in the background. But this movie is so fantastic. The series as well as the movie just has such a unique artistic style that is super expressive, and I just I cannot say enough good things about this film. So please watch it. Let me know if you if you like it, because I just had a blast watching that. So that's highly recommend. The other Netflix show that I am currently obsessed with, obsessed, and I cannot believe I never was on this bandwagon back in 2013 or whenever it started coming out. But Bee and Puppycat got a reboot. And I am absolutely head over heels about these weird little roommates. And I truly am just I don't know, I don't know where I was not like watching the original. And I'm to the point, I'm only like halfway through this reboot season, but I'm like, dang, I should go back and rewatch the original series. But Bee and Puppycat is so unique. Like, I don't even know what to compare it to. Like, it feels a little bit Steven Universe, but it doesn't take itself as seriously. Like, I feel it feels more like early Steven Universe in the fact that, like, it's silly and wacky and fun, and it's, like, kind of that same, like, laissez-faire type art style, sort of. Like, it seems calming, but also it's, like, chaotic. And also there are these weird, like, overarching story beats happening amidst the weirdness, if that makes sense at all. But I watched the first episode and I was like, what is this? This is wild. Like, it's so random and weird and hilarious at the same time. I was like, I don't even know how to define this show because it feels like it's a completely different, like, genre. Like, it looks and feels sometimes like it's for little kids, but then it'll be like blood everywhere and you're like, excuse me? And this is not a graphic show, I will say. Like, I say blood, but it is not graphic. Like, it is not actually that violent. It's just like this one like early episode and they fight this monster, but like, but it is definitely adult because also like, but it's not so adult. It's weird. It is so good and weird in the best way. Weird is a positive statement here. Okay. But it is hilarious. And like, it's such a strange humor as well, because like, I'm so excited. Like, and I'm so in awe. Like, I don't even know how to describe Bee and Puppycat. There's like, video game type music happening constantly, and it's just kind of like chill vibes, and the art style is super sweet and cute, and the characters are adorable. Okay, listen, I'm rambling. Bee and Puppycat is about this girl named Bee, and she wishes for a pet to take care of, and Puppycat, who is like a dog cat hybrid that you can't really tell what they are, falls from the heavens to her, and they become roommates. And Puppycat is like an alien and can talk in this weird bebop boop sounds almost, but it's more like, wow, like, it's weird. Again, it's weird, but you read the subtitles and you understand him, and Bee understands him anyway, so they're roommates. And Bee takes care of him. And like, the whole premise is literally just they need to pay rent. That's the entire premise of this show. It's just two roommates who need to pay rent. And so to do that, like, Bee gets fired from her job. So Puppycat is like, fine, you can go on jobs with me. And they work as temps for space problems. So like, when they need a job, they'll go to this giant computer in the sky and be like, we need a job. And then she will send them to different random insane planets that are all doing, like, imagine Infinity Train where all the cars have a different world in them. It's like that kind of chaos, right? Where it's just like one planet is just like two weird aliens and a giant can of soda. Like, that's the vibe we're going with here, okay? And so they will go on whichever planet they're sent to and do whatever weird job that needs to be done. And they get a costume change every time, and I'm like, dang, that must cost a lot of money animation-wise for the design department to, like, give them new costumes every single episode. But I love it. And it's just super cute, and also just, like, chill, and also just, like, real life, you know? Like, it feels real. It's just, like, they're not messing around. They're like, yeah, here we are. Bee and Puppycat. Wow, how has it taken me 10 years to get on board this train? I don't know. But I am hardcore on the train. So I will be finishing Bee and Puppycat for sure. And I cannot wait to watch more of it. I'm almost like I don't want to watch it too fast because I want to have it in my back pocket for when I need something chill and fun. So, Bee and Puppycat, please watch it. Also on Netflix, there's so many things on Netflix. The Sea Beast is a phenomenal film that I am absolutely just stir crazy about. It is so, like, just I don't even want to say underrated because it's not rated. Like, I feel like no one even knows it exists. So I just need to, like, get that out in the ether right now. Emma and I just recorded an entire podcast episode for next week about the Sea Beast. So be prepared because we're going to talk in depth. Here's your warning. So go watch it now so you're ready to listen to the next episode because, wow, the Sea Beast, I'm not even going to tell you anything. Just trust me with an hour and a half of your time and go watch The Sea Beast on Netflix. You will not be disappointed. The animation is so good. The story and characters, it felt fresh and new and yet very familiar. You know, it just, wow. It's the cinematography. Anyway, we talk about it plenty in the next episode, so I won't go too in depth, but goodness gracious, please watch it. Please. One more for the Netflix, and that is Dead End Paranormal Park. And I haven't watched too much of it yet, but I did watch the first few episodes. I think it's kind of a fun little story about this amusement park, but it's also like got some spooky vibes to it, and ghosts and weird demons and other sorts of random shenanigans. I didn't get quite as sucked into this one as like Bee and Puppycat, but I just wanted to point out that it is a good one, and I know a lot of people are absolutely loving it. So Dead End, also check it out. Okay, so now that I've talked about Netflix for forever, I have been watching a couple of anime. My go-to isekai of this season, because I always have at least one that I'm watching, is A Pharmacy in Another World. And listen, I know that this is not the best isekai or the best anime or the best show that you will ever see. It is another one of those just chill vibes. And there are some times where the stakes are high, but it's like the stakes will be high and then the episode will end, so it feels like a cliffhanger. And then in the next episode, it's like, actually, it's totally fine. Which is just my kind of show recently, if you haven't noticed. A Pharmacy in Another World is literally just, a doctor who dies, overworks himself, and then gets reincarnated into the body of a boy in the fantasy realm who just happens to be the heir, or, well, I guess second son, of this great pharmaceutical family. So there's like magic involved, which is fun, and also like, and he literally has the power of a god, so it's your typical isekai format, except instead of trying to like slay the beast and like save the kingdom or whatever, he's just wanting to like provide universal health care. And it's really great. So that's my isekai of the season. Good stuff. And then I've slowly and really, really slowly been making my way through Steins Gate, and that anime has been on my list for years and years, and I just was like, I'm going to start it. I'm going to finish it. It's a goal of mine to finish it because I do want to know what happens. I don't think I'm getting as sucked into it because, like I said, I kind of have been more into watching chill, fun vibes rather than this, sci-fi time travel like thriller that is happening. So I am not getting through it super quick. But that's not to say it's not good. Like, Steins Gate is one of the highest rated anime on a lot of different sites. And so that's why it's been on my list for so long. And I really want to finish it. I think it came out in like 2011 or 2012 or something. But it like I said, sci-fi thriller. I honestly don't want to say too much about the plot because that's what's good about it. Like, is this crazy, wild time travel story. But it does do a few different things that I haven't seen in time travel before. So it is interesting. I will say for my own part, I'm not a huge fan of the characters. Like, they all feel pretty shallow. I will say the main character definitely is growing on me as he is being torn down from the inside. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to see where the plot goes. Like, I'm in this one for the plot for sure. It's not necessarily, I don't necessarily have a lot of emotional connection to any of the characters. I just want to see what happens and what they do with it. So, Steins Gate, I'll keep you posted on when I finish that and what my thoughts are, especially since it is so highly rated. Like, it might be one of those things where it's like, it will blow my mind later. And it definitely has, twisted my brain a little bit already, but I'm waiting. I'm just waiting. Maybe it's just not for me. Not everything is for everyone. And that's okay. That's also okay. You don't have to be a fan of everything. But I am going to finish it because it is wild. So Steins Gate, let me know if you've watched it and if you really like it, or if not, I don't know. I always like to know what people think. So those are all of the things. And so now is the time we will get to Goodbye, Don Glees. Okay, so I watched so spoiler warning. This is your spoiler warning for Goodbye, Don Glees. By the time this is coming out, I think you might have one more chance to see it because this film is only being released in the US for like 3 days. 3 random days, mind you, like a Tuesday, a Sunday, and like some other day. So good luck. I saw it Tuesday night, and like, I usually go into a lot of anime movies with low expectations, and I would say this one didn't like super surpass my low expectations, but was quite enjoyable. Like, I feel like it was just different and yet not, if that makes sense. So yeah, let's go in. It's written and directed by Atsuko Ishizuka, who directed A Place Further from the Universe and No Game, No Life, among other things, and is produced by Studio Madhouse. And Madhouse, if you don't know, has done like Death Note, Wolf Children, One Punch Man, etc., etc. And the animation, I will say right off the bat, just to like get that out of the way, like, the animation is good. There's some usage of CGI that felt weird and threw me off, for sure. Definitely, especially just at the end, there's CGI usage for these big landscape like sweeps. And it makes sense because it's such a challenging shot. But I was like, ooh, it took me out of the moment, which is bad for the ending when you want to be like encompassed in all of your emotions. So, but other than that, like, the character designs are really fun and the animation is done pretty well. So it looks good. It looks good. The music was lacking. I will just say that right up front. I feel like if the music had been better, like, I would have had more of an emotional response to it because that's what music is supposed to do. And it didn't quite hit the nail on the head for me, at least. But here I am talking like everything's like, okay, it's okay. Well, Kelly, this is Fanimated. What are you enjoying about it? What I enjoyed about Goodbye, Don Glees is the characters. Like, the characters, it's a character study, basically, about these 3 kids, these high schoolers, these high school boys who are all in their different, it's a coming of age story, and they're all coming from different perspectives and histories and futures. It's just about, them kind of taking the next step into their future. And it isn't anything new, okay? This film doesn't do anything drastically different to a coming of age story plot. It doesn't necessarily do anything drastically different in terms of stuff we've seen before in this realm and in these sort of adventures. And but it still felt refreshing, I guess, because so many films, like even like everything I've already mentioned that I've been watching, besides from Bee and Puppycat, because that is the most like low stakes thing I've ever watched. But like this Goodbye Don Glees, it's not necessarily that they have low stakes. It's just that all this other stuff that we watch all the time, constantly, is always about like, yeah, they have to save the world, and there's great danger, and these kids have to rise up in the face of all this adversity, and those stories are awesome. Why do you think I'm like super obsessed with the Owl House right now? I love these stories of these kids having to face really big problems. We all do. Our media is full of it, and not just kids stuff, but like, superheroes and everything. The stakes are huge. But like Goodbye Don Glees, they're not trying to change the entire world. They're just trying to change their world. And that is a big deal. Like, it takes something that's small and makes it big. Because, like, to each and every one of us, our lives are so small and insignificant. We are a speck of dust in the universe. But to us, we're a big deal. And like, to us, our stories matter. And to the people around us, our stories matter. And that's what this film is. It's not about like this great, big, grand, world-changing adventure. It's about this great, big, grand, personal adventure. And that's what I really, really loved about it. That's what felt different, is because the stakes are high, but only for them. Like, the kids barely even affect the world around them at all. What they affect is each other. And I was like, oh, it just felt so good. Like, so I am just diving way ahead of here, but like the general synopsis is you have Toto, Roma, and Drop. Toto is a high school kid who is like on the medical track in school. He goes to school in Tokyo. He's a pretty anxious kid. Kind of sees himself as the more mature one. Then you have Roma, who goes to school in their hometown, which is a very small hick town. He is very socially anxious. He has social anxiety. He barely interacts with any of his other schoolmates. And he studies agriculture because he's like, I'm just going to take over my father's farm. That's all I'm going to do. And Roma, I feel like, is kind of like the main character. A lot of it's coming from his perspective, and he has like a big heart and big dreams, but like is also pretty influenced by other people around him. And then you have Drop, and Drop is like the most outgoing, adventurous, just wild child there is. Drop doesn't attend high school because you find out pretty early on that he is sick, and they never really specify, but I'm assuming it's a type of cancer. And so he, from the beginning, is destined to die. And one thing I appreciated was that, like, here I was thinking, oh, okay, you have this whole thing laid out, like, they are probably going to do, like, some great big reveal that, oh no, he's sick, or he's just going to die, and that's going to be the big climactic moment. But actually, like, Toto and aren't dumb. They figure out that he's sick pretty earlier than I expected. So I appreciated that, because then it kind of makes things, like, I feel like stories like that, yeah, it's like the big climax is that someone's gonna die, or that they find out that they're sick or something, but like that wasn't the climax. Like, they found out earlier so that they could still interact with them knowing that the end was coming. And so they go on this little adventure because there's a forest fire, near their town, and the kids at school are thinking, oh, it's these guys because they set off fireworks, but they have drone footage that they think proves that they're innocent. But the drone crash landed somewhere far away and got like swept up in the wind or whatever. And so they're like, we have to go get the drone, and so we can prove that we're innocent. But here's the thing. These are just kids talking online at school, like about they like accusing them that they were the people who started the fire. There are no police knocking on their door. Like, this is all just like in the heads of these high schoolers, and it feels so real in that way. Like, of course, they're, pulling it way out of proportions, but of course to them it's a big deal. So they're like, yes, we have to do this. And so they go to find the drone, but of course they run into lots of problems. And here, this was another thought I had, and how it surprised me was that I thought, oh, something bad is going to happen during this adventure and someone's going to die. Or they're going to be lost and gone for too long, and all of the parents are going to be searching for them, and there's going to be some big search for them, and it's going to be all climactic, right? But that didn't even happen. And honestly, the forest fire, you never find out anything about the forest fire. None of that is important. Again, all of these things are just in their heads, and even all of these high stakes are just stakes for themselves. It doesn't actually turn out to be like that. And another example of this is pretty early on. They have an encounter with a bear. It's pretty terrifying, and they get out of this scrape. But later on, it's mentioned there aren't any bears in those woods. Did they imagine it, or was it a big dog or something else? But in their minds, it's a bear. And so that's kind of a clue as to I feel a lot of stuff in their minds, I think they're unreliable narrators throughout the film. And that kind of comes into play at the end. But keeping that in mind, to them, they're on this big grand adventure, but really they're on a walk in the woods, and they get a little lost, and they find their drone, and then they come home. That's the story. And what makes it special is that they have each other, and they start to open up to each other. It's about themselves and their relationships, and them helping each other grow. And so the big theme here is about your future and what you want and what's your treasure. Drop tells the story about this. He spent a lot of time in Iceland, and he was searching for this great, massive waterfall that had a telephone booth by it. And if you answered the telephone, it would tell you your treasure. What was the thing? What's the one thing you need to have a happy ending? And Drop, of course, is searching for that because he knows he's going to die. And so he's like, what am I searching for? What is my treasure? And that's his whole thing, right? And at the end for him, his treasure is his friends, and having adventures with them. And basically they keep going, they keep trudging along on this adventure for him, and for him to have one final adventure, witnessed by Toto and Roma, his great friends. And, for Roma, maybe that treasure is he talks about this girl that he wanted to talk to, and he even says it's not just about the girl, which I appreciate. It's more about him getting out of his comfort zone, which I appreciated, that it wasn't necessarily all about the girl, but it is a little bit of that, oh, the guy just wants the girl, whatever. But for Roma, it's kind of getting out of his hometown, because he never leaves his hometown. And of course he does that. And then Toto, he's just he's on the medical track, but he doesn't know why. Why is he becoming a doctor? Just because he's supposed to? And by the end, he finds his reason to want to be a doctor, and that's because Drop does die. And so he's well, if you're not, only the doctors can do something about it. If you're not a doctor, all you can do is hope. And so he's becoming a doctor so he can take action and do something about it. So they all find their treasures and their purposes, and they change, right? But there's like a third act to this film. And that this is the other thing that surprised me, because Drop dies earlier than I expected. And I was like, dang, it's only been like an hour. Like, what's happening? And Drop left Toto and Roma a final adventure. And I won't, like, I'm going to leave some twists here for you so that if you see the film, like, you'll be able to still have some, fun things to look forward to. But, like, I really, really loved that last act. They go and they try to find the waterfall with the telephone booth. And to me, like I had mentioned, I feel like they are unreliable narrators. And so I don't necessarily believe that the telephone booth is real, but maybe just in their heads. But, you can interpret it how you want. But basically, there are some things that, like, tie them all together in a different way. And, like, I thought it felt a little bit forced, like, the way they're all connected. But I appreciated it anyway. Like, it still kind of gives you that last little twist. So, yeah, like, it was a film that followed a lot of similar things that I've seen before, and yet surprised me by doing things just a little bit differently, and had some pretty good character moments, and also, like, just fun adventure. Like, it was different. It was different, and it was fun. I feel like it almost feels like it's a short story. Like, I feel like this is something I would read in a literature class, but in short story form. Like, on film, I feel like I guess I just don't know if film is the right way to tell this story, because it doesn't follow a lot of similar, like, film story beats, and it feels, because usually in a film there's like one big climax and that's the end, which, hey, like, let's redefine our definitions of a film narrative for sure. But, like, this felt more like a short story in which maybe there are multiple climaxes, and, like, it just feels like there's so much, like, the first adventure, it's either like, it's two adventures. This movie follows two different adventures, and the first one is like, I guess I figured it would all just be about that first adventure, but then there's a second one, and it's like, well, would you have rather just had, like, the second adventure instead of the first one? Like, I feel like you almost, what I would expect, I guess, out of a story like this is for them to focus on the second adventure, but then have the past adventure, like, woven in the middle of it to tell the story or something, and then spent more time on the second adventure, maybe. But I don't know. Yeah, it's just, because this isn't based on anything, actually, like I truly, when I was watching it, I thought this was based on a short story or something, because that's what it feels like. But this is, written by Atsuko Ishizuka. Like, she wrote it and directed it. Like, she wrote it for the screen. So, but that's what it felt like to me. It just is, it's different, and not necessarily a bad different, just like it felt like it was something that, it felt like literature. It didn't feel like film, which, is not a bad thing at all. I also liked the third act better because there wasn't as much dialogue. And I say this over and over again, but truly, like, film is different from, like, literature, from reading. Film is different from manga. Like, it has different aspects, and that is moving pictures and music. So to me, a great film is one that utilizes great visuals and great music to tell a story. And it doesn't need a lot of dialogue. Like, that's, like, Spirit is one of the best films, in my opinion, animated films, because, like, there's barely any dialogue. The script is probably like 3 pages long. It's all just visuals and fantastic music. So, like, to me, another reason why it felt like a short story was that it was just a lot of talking and not a lot of things happening. Like, especially the first adventure part is like they throw in some adventurous mayhem, but it felt like slapped on and not necessary. Like, what was necessary was them talking to each other. And there was almost too much talking. There was too much talking and not enough action for what a film usually is. But then that final act is barely any dialogue at all. And that was, I wish there was more of that. So all of that to say, basically, I thought it was a great story, great characters, but it felt like the usage of animation as a medium wasn't fully utilized, or that it wasn't necessary. Like, it didn't feel super necessary to have this be a film. Like, it felt like it could have been a novel or like a short story or a manga or something. And I don't know how you change that or make it more appropriate for film, or maybe it's just so different that I need to broaden my horizons and say that like, we can have different sort of story beats and narrative structures. But that was what I was thinking about a lot, is just like it doesn't feel like every film out there because of those structural points. So, wow, yeah, I did have a lot more to say on that than I thought, but like, not enough for a full-length episode. Definitely one that I would watch again, though. Definitely one I would add to my library. Definitely one I would, recommend go seeing in theaters if you are listening to this when this episode comes out and you still have time to do so. If not, like, I'm sure it'll be streaming in the US soon. So, or you can just buy it. But yeah, that's Goodbye, Don Glees. I will say, too, in reference to the title, there's a cultural gap about that I didn't fully understand, even with the English subtitles, and I was a little lost about that. But you know what? That's my lack of Japanese cultural understanding. And not any fault of the film itself. I would definitely be interested in watching, because I watched it subbed. I'd love to watch it dubbed to see if they fix some of that. Because Don Glees is some reference to a Japanese, like, nursery rhyme or song or something. But then it's revealed that, like, oh, actually, it was supposed to be English for don't glee, like, don't be happy. Which I also didn't fully get. But again, I don't think that's the film's fault. I think that's just my fault. And also maybe the subtitled translators. But yeah, go watch it and let me know. I always say that, but you can let us know on Instagram and Facebook at Fanimated Podcast. You can email me at fanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. Those are, like, truly, just let me know what you're watching. I always want to know what people are watching and what's good and what I'm missing out on. Or if you've watched any of the things I've talked about so that I can geek out with you. Man, yeah, with all of that, like, obviously, I've been freaking out about the Owl House, but I talk about the Owl House like every episode. So I'll leave that for later. But if you want to know all of my thoughts on the new season 3 promo for the Owl House, you can go to patreon.com/fanimated. There is a free bonus episode where I ramble and ramble and ramble for like half an hour about the season 3 of the Owl House, and my thoughts and predictions and just geeking out about it. So if you're a fan of the Owl House, check it out. Next month is going to be a lot of Owl House content on this podcast, so just be ready. And again, next week is the Sea Beast, and next week is the 4th anniversary for Fanimated. So we are doing a live stream on September 23rd at 7 p.m. Central. That's going to be on our YouTube channel, Fanimated on YouTube. And I'm going to be doing some drawing to request. I'm going to draw live, and I'll draw whatever animated characters you want me to. And I'm pretty excited about it. I always love a good live stream. So check that out if you are listening to this before September 23rd, 2022. But if you are listening to this after September 23rd, you can watch it on YouTube anyway, because I will leave it there. You just won't be able to give me suggestions and be there live and talk to me. But, you can still watch what we did. So thank you to everyone also for just getting me through 4 years of this. that's wild and insane that we are at the 4th anniversary of Fanimated, and it feels like no time and all of the time in the world that I've been doing this, and I hope to do it for another several years. There's always something to say about animation, and I always want to talk about it. So thank you as always for geeking out with me. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you listening, and y'all are great. The music is written by Jamie Krause, and the art is done by myself. My art Instagram is @CandorDraw, and we'll be back next week to discuss the Sea Beast. So, in the meantime, stay tuned and stay animated. Hey, yeah, I usually have a tag at the end of these episodes, but I did not have anything to add. So how about that Zelda Tears of the Kingdom trailer, huh?